Excellent. So welcome to your last debate. So the proposition is, well, the motion for the debate is the following. Art has always been a way by which man can escape the governing and oppressing conditions of the world. Art does not know about numbers, measures, and concepts. Art plays and gambles with metaphors, builds alternate worlds and different worlds. Somehow, art is also a means by which we can break up rules, establish values, mass culture, etc. Vanguards, emerging at the first half of the 20th century, had these goals. They wanted to face modernity's crisis. However, they weren't as successful as their creators would have hoped for. In turn, they divided population in two, the ones who understand the vanguards and the ones who don't. Art transformed the potential market, a commercial success. Which are the possibilities you can see in art? Does art have the chance to regain its rebel spirit? Should art always oppose to the established order? Proposition. Art should be a revolutionary activity. It should push society and social reality to think of the conditions of the world. This should be its goal. Art should constitute itself, its force, as its force with commitment in order to transform the current conditions of the world. Opposition. Art is a free activity and it should not represent nothing and nobody. It should maintain its degree of independence from reality. We should not think about art as attached to a social obligation because art is free. So the debate should last 30 minutes and then we're going to work with team number one, that it's going to be proposition team. And then each of you will have 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 30, and 4 minutes accordingly to present your introduction, arguments, and conclusion. Okay, so are you ready? Introduction on team number one?
Yes.
Okay, so please go ahead. Omar, are you ready?
Yes, teacher, I'm ready.
Thank you.
Okay.
Daphne?
Good good afternoon, everyone. My name is Daphne, and my teammates are Eric Araujo Sosa and Victor Martinez Hernandez. Today, we're going to talk about art, which we claim should be a revolutionary activity. It should push society and social reality to think of the conditions of the world. This should be its goal. Art should constitute itself as this force with commitment in order to transform the current conditions of the world. In this debate, we will support our statements by means of Keynesian aesthetics, philosophical proposal, and the following cases or examples. In order to sustain our claims, we use the following books and sources. Encyclopedia of Philosophy by Stanford, Critique of Judgment by Immanuel Kant, On Truth and Lies in Non-Moral Sense by Friedrich Nietzsche, The Social Construction of Reality by Peter L. Berge and Thomas Luxman, Art as a New Way of Thinking by Eric Gangs, and ¿Cuál es la importancia del arte en la sociedad? Throughout the debate, we will present the following definitions. Art, status quo, aesthetics, Keynesian aesthetics, philosophical relativism, and aesthetic relativism. According to art, is defined as a diverse range of human activities involving the application of creative imagination in order to express technical proficiency, beauty, emotional power, or conceptual ideas. The status quo is defined as the existing state of affairs, how things are as opposed to the way they could be. Aesthetic is the branch of philosophy that relates to the principle of beauty and artistic taste. Kantian's aesthetic is his work on aesthetics and theology. Immanuel Kant argues that it is our faculty of judgment which enables us experience beauty and gasp. It is related in experiences. According to these criteria, if we prove that art should be a revolutionary activity, it should push society and social reality to think of the conditions of the world. This should be its goal. Art should constitute itself as this force with commitment in order to transform current conditions. Then we know we will won the debate.
Thank you. Omar, can you help me with the time, please?
Yes, it was 2:36. Now I'll start again.
Thank you.
Oh, could you tell me when to start, please?
You can start now if you want.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alejandro de la Cueva, and my teammates are Emilio Padilla and Artemio Cancino. Today, we are going to talk about art is a free activity, and it should not represent anything and no one. It should maintain its degree of independence from reality. We should not think about art as attached to a social obligation because art is free. In this debate, we will support our statements by means of Kant's philosophical proposal and on the following cases or examples: festivals and concerts such as Corona Capital and Vive Latino, Pablo Picasso's paintings such as El Sueño, contemporary sculptures like Puppy or Balloon Dog made by Jeff Koons. In order to sustain our claims, we will use the following articles: El arte como lenguaje, by Simón Marchand Fils. ¿Debe tener límites el arte? By Natividad Pulido. Arte por la felicidad, finalidad sin fin. Crítica a la idea de finalidad en el arte. By the Dictionary of Philosophy, filosofia.org. Throughout the debate, we will present the following definitions, criteria, and arguments: art, artwork, freedom, limits, and activity. At present, art is something that is very present in our lives, and not only in the present, but it has been for a long time, since the beginning of ages. We could say that it has been since man first put an idea or definition of art, even on the first paintings that the humanity has a mark or a record of. Likewise, art has accompanied us throughout our history, passing through great empires such as the Greek or Roman, through the Middle Ages, the Renaissance, the Industrial Revolution worldwide, until we reach today as we know it and we define it. There is a lyric art that can be made in this way since a long time ago. Art has also changed throughout the passage of history, but it has always maintained its only established objective, which is to be a means of entertainment and likewise feeling good. That art is a free activity for all of us, since anyone could and can create art, as there is no need for any deeper symbolism or meaning. Art should be just this: art. So, taking into account all of the above, if we prove that art is just a free activity, then we can say that we won the debate.
Thank you.
Okay, so you can do the first argument if you want the next team.
Omar, can you tell me how,
It was 2:44. 2 minutes 44.
Okay, so can I start now? Or?
Yes, whenever you want.
Great, sure. So I'll go with your first argument, which is that art has traditionally been defined by rebellion. Whether rebelling against political or social forces, or even reality itself, art as a tool of human expression has always been characterized as challenging force that stands up to convention and aims to decimate the status quo of which the artist is tired of. One could argue that any politically charged cultural movements throughout human history that were once the root of artistic rebellions posed the means through which any given individual was able to express themselves. While nowadays contemporary philosophy struggles to find a proper definition of art as a consequence of its many varying conventions, aesthetic properties, and boundless limitations, a commonly agreed upon definition reads that art comprises a diverse range of human activities involving the application of creative imagination in order to express technical proficiency, beauty, emotional power, or conceptual ideas. Still, said definition does not establish an end to the means of art and instead inclines one to think that there is none. To cite German philosopher Immanuel Kant's definition of fine art found in his 1790s popular piece of work, Critique of Judgment, fine art is a kind of representation that is purposive in itself and, though without an end, nevertheless promotes the cultivation of the mental powers of sociable communication. Perhaps then, it is not the existence or non-existence of an objective assigned to art which we should look at as to formulate a statement, but rather its direct and indirect implications on the social fabric of society, that is, the consequences it has on certain current state of affairs. It is then when one will realize the myriad of artistic currents that have existed over the ages, all of which ultimately contradicted its predecessors its predecessors in search of a new perspective on reality, a new state of affairs, a new status quo. Even now, in a globalized world in which art seems no longer a means of expression, but instead an industry whose products won't be realized if they're not asked for, and in which art is heavily criticized for its apparent lack of sense, one ought to look no further than England-based street artist Bansky, whose work represents a statement against the same art industry which so promotes its portfolio. Postmodernism is but a means of defying that which came before it and the previously established conventions of art authored by the Academy of Fine Arts in Paris, France. Hence, even in the most absurd realities, the rebellious connotations associated with art as a means of human expression and as well as its impact on a given state of affairs cannot be negated. It is not art which has changed, but the evolved conventions of what art should traditionally look like and which it so looks to defy that have. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes, it was 2:30 exact, teacher.
Thank you, dear.
Now the other team can start whenever they want.
Okay, thank you. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'll start now. The consequences of limiting art. Art is an expression of our human essence, our history, identity, problems, and culture. It started with no limitations to express and communicate our creativity to others. It is a universal language that can explain the past and the present. It has enriched our cultures, and it is the only way where humans can appreciate the tangible and intangible things that are in our environment. Faced with the communication process that requires a concrete response to the content of the information, the artistic work, request, and interpretation, art can be perceived in different ways. It will depend on the person who is experiencing or analyzing the artistic object. Art is also a matter of taste because people have different criteria, perspectives, interests, and things we like. It is a human way for releasing emotions such as pain or happiness. If we establish limits in the creative process to only educate, be revolutionary, or create social awareness, we will lose a big part of the emotions, thoughts, meanings, lessons, and experiences that art transmits to us. Art should follow a creative process with limits. Guillermo Solana, who is the artistic director of the Thyssen Museum, said, "Each spectator sets the limits for himself," meaning art and its creator have no limits, but the spectator does. We all interpret the things we see or interact with differently, and that is part of the artistic project. Analyzing this poster through Kant's perspective, we should enjoy and analyze art. We must not judge or modify it for not being revolutionary or educational. Instead, we should appreciate it and enjoy it. An example of these are contemporary sculptures like Poppy or also Balloon Dog made by Jeff Koons. We must not focus on how art works, educate, or make us conscious about something. Instead, we should enjoy it and individually give it a value or meaning using our criteria. We should analyze the emotions or feelings it made us experience. Everyone will have a different opinion about a piece of art. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was 2:26.
Thank you, Omar. So shall we proceed on second argument, please?
Yes. May I start?
Yes, you can start whenever you want.
Okay. Art in all human aspects. Art is present in all aspects of human activity and culture. Art has a specific role in society. One role of the art is the art expresses the emotions and struggles of the society it exists within, and inspires society to cope and even overcome. As we know, messages have an impact, either positively or negatively. What is expressed produces an effect in the receiver. So under this concept, the importance of art is clear due to its quality of channel and transmitter. Art sensitizes an artist, being sentient beings, to the only aim to create a better society. The repression to which the humans has been subjected throughout our history has precisely caused a need for expression. And art, apart from seeing an aesthetic of entertainment, has the function of informing, educating, and at the same time, it possesses the ability to move the masses and collectively impact in society. All this in order to achieve a desired favorable change or simply to create awareness about an issue that affects humanity. It's important to mention that while the members of a society are better in contact and immersed in art and culture, there is less probability that they are inclined towards delinquence and or laziness since art sensitizes and inspires people to be better. That's mainly why it is very important that the authors know the responsibility that they have. Their art impacts hundreds and thousands of people. They must be aware that with great power comes greater responsibility. It is inevitable for an artist that his work does not modify the viewer in something, and a change always occurs. This is why when making an artist's expressions, we must be aware in mind that it will reach thousands of people, and for that the transformation of the work will have a viewer positively. It is extremely necessary that it is planned and carried out with responsibility. Artists as public figures have the responsibility of setting an example of society to follow. They fulfill a certain way of the role educators, bringing values, idea, concepts to the viewer.
It's 2:30, teacher.
Thank you, dear. Thank you, Daphne.
Now for the objections, is it 20 seconds per each team, or it says here 20 and 20, and then it says 30 minutes. So
I believe it.
But the other team
it's
is
missing
using
one team,
the
right?
argument.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I thought that it was time for the objections. I'm sorry.
All right. So I will start now. Well, art is a freedom of expression. Therefore, creating artwork with specific goals and not letting the artist express or communicate his thoughts or even emotions is actually wrong. If we try to make everyone analyze and achieve the same educational result in a piece of art, we will be destroying the beauty of giving different meanings and values to it. We all think and experience everything in different ways. It is true that there are masterpieces that educate. Nevertheless, art has no barriers, and we can create anything we want just for fun or just because it will be meaningful for us and not necessarily for everyone else. Art is created and analyzed through our perspectives that we cannot manipulate. The philosopher Gabriel Albiac stated that the limit of art is the determinative power of the human mind. What is composable is done with the imaginary resources that form subjectivity at a defined moment. Concerts and other similar artistic events like Corona Capital or Vive Latino don't follow a model to be revolutionary or educational. People assist to these events to seek discomfort, have fun, and experience new emotions and adrenaline. They use that art to feel that way. Art is that space where any healthy society can deal with its hopes, desires, fears, or just have fun. These concerts are composed of music, but the ones who experience it try to have fun combining that music with their environment to enjoy that experience without educating themselves or seeking revolution. The experience may turn boring if we always live an artistic experience this way. Kant's perspective also agrees with this scenario. We have to stop thinking that we have to be constantly learning something about art. Be revolutionary or be aware of a problem. Kant said that we must enjoy and seize the experience to appreciate art. We would like to reaffirm that art is created and analyzed through our perspectives, and also it cannot be manipulated, therefore. It is experienced in different ways. It does not have to have something revolutionary or educational always.
It's 2:28.
Thank you. Then we're having the objections. So it's going to be 20 seconds per team. Are you ready, guys?
Sure.
Go ahead, please.
Can I object first?
Yes.
Well, I would like to say that I think you've made some bad examples because first of all, when you mentioned the balloon duck, sure it is an example of free art, but it also is an example of art that was put in a museum because it was criticized first. So criticism can build upon art. And moreover, the example of the Corona capital, I think you failed to realize that even if the I'm
So it was 20 seconds per team, right, teacher? So
Yes, dear.
that was the 20 seconds.
Thank you. So the other team, do you have any objection or do you want to answer to that objection?
Well, I would like to answer.
Yes.
We think that art is a matter of perspectives because every one of us has a different criteria. And how are we going to be sure that all of us arrive to the same meaning and agree on the same idea that when we see or experience art, because we are different, and we can arrive to different conclusions. Therefore, not everyone will arrive to the same result and obtain the same education or will identify the revolutionary message through art.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, it was a little bit more than 20 seconds.
Okay. So shall we go to our preparation for conclusions, guys?
Falta el tercer argumento.
Oh, I'm very sorry. So should we then go with the third argument?
You told me when to start.
Omar?
Should I start?
All right, yeah, you can start whenever you like.
Art can have an impact even if all humanity. According to Nietzsche, art is not guided by rules, numbers, or laws that it has to follow. For him, art is not the imitation of nature, but a metaphysical complement that will enable the transcendence of nature itself. Art is an expression of what we are. Art is part of us, shows us who we are, where we come from, and where are we going. Because of this, man can express himself with complete freedom in art without having to follow any rules. This makes his thoughts free, no matter if they have to go against a norm imposed by society. Thanks to this, it can have a revolutionary impact in society, as the new ideas of an artist can collide with those of the current society, generating doubts and rethinking in it. One cannot ignore the vast amount of works that question the prevailing ideologies in a society that have caused enormous changes. The clearest example of this were works of the Renaissance, which not only impacted their society, but marked for the beginning of another era of all mankind.
Okay, so it's 1 minute 9.
Okay.
And the next team can start whenever they like.
Thank you. Art is a matter of perspectives and individuals. Art is one of the most beautiful and meaningful ways of expression and bringing life to our world, our inner selves. Our essences are greatly impacted by the way that art is and the art that surrounds us. Independence and freedom is essential to provide the best art possible. Artist Mahmoud Hamadani, really famous in the art world in the Middle East, thinks there should be no restrictions regarding the creation of new art. He prefers absolute freedom artists have had for a long time and have reached a level close to perfection and excellence to many. In his opinion, the whole point of being an artist is to be free. Why compromise one's freedom by belonging to this or that school of art? In fact, the biggest challenge for an artist is not to think, Hamadani said. There is a bigger challenge for an artist. Hamadani said there is a bigger difference than most notice between just doing a painting and being a true artist, which definitely takes a longer time to become. The beauty in the formation of an artist consists of the naturality they acquire, in which they are able to create art without a need or a reason to justify it for. Finding inspiration from mundane things is something that allows the outcome to be more natural and purer. Kant liked to reduce art to some single essential aspect, which backups our previously mentioned posture. It does not have to be complex or to have a forced meaning and intention and a specific purpose to do it. We can take the painting of Pablo Picasso called El Sueño, in which a woman is seen just doing that dreaming, but with the style of Picasso. The beauty of the process of creating art is in the development and plasmating it into the outcome, not into the reasoning behind it, which sometimes could be created just by forcing it rather than an authentic will for representing a cause. There is a special aesthetic value in simplicity of things, simplicity in arts. Simplicity is able to bring unity and balance at the same time and provide ease, which is aesthetically satisfying. We can enjoy art without having to understand the message behind or having the restrictions or boundaries some may suggest. Art itself will have a personal representation for each and every one. In fact, as Kant said, art is purposiveness without purpose.
Thank you.
It was 228.
Okay, so I am going to send you to different rooms, okay? So you can prepare your conclusion. Remember that once you get there, then you'll just going to have, you'll have 2 minutes, okay? So I'm going to send Alex to one room and Daphne to room number 2. Is that all right?
Yes.
Thank you. Emilio with Alex, right? Okay, so shall we then continue?
Yes.
Okay, so please, is it possible that you can help me?
Do I
Um,
start now or do I have to
Yeah,
wait?
please.
Okay.
Everyone's here already, right?
Yeah.
So let's go ahead, please.
Okay. Sure.
So you've got
Um.
hands there. Go ahead.
Okay. So finally, we can conclude that art should be a revolutionary activity. It should push society and societal reality to think of the conditions of the world. This should be its goal. Art should consider itself as its force with commitment in order to transform the current conditions of the world. After taking into consideration and actively listening to your arguments, we believe that some great points were made from which we can obtain valuable insight to further elaborate on our stance, such as the fact that art should be boundless. We do kind of agree on that, that individual expression is also key for the artist. And I think perhaps most importantly, that beauty is in the eye of the beholder as expressed by Immanuel Kant and echoed by Friedrich Nietzsche. Even so, and in spite of your efforts to convince us art is a free activity, it should not represent nothing or nobody. It should maintain its degree of independence from reality. We should not think about art as attached to a social obligation because art is free. We think we perform better during this debate as we succeeded on commenting on the history of art and establishing a certain relationship between how art has transcended through the ages and has actually been a revolutionary activity at its core for more than a century, or well, for more than history can tell actually. And we also succeeded in cementing the importance of revolutionary act with the same facts and arguments we just presented. And in perhaps a little bit more important, in understanding the importance of criticism for the industry, for you decided to um, make a side and focus on the importance of the expression of the artist, but not on the criticism provided by critics themselves, who actually push the art and are the ones who put the most avant-garde pieces of work in the museums we got to see every day. Moreover, we think that we managed to propose the message that, well, what the artist wants to say and the intention of the artist and freedom of the artist are not mutually exclusive and can indeed coexist, which we think it's a key factor in our arguments. An artist can be both himself and still try to push a revolutionary message. They are not mutually exclusive in that sense. For example, when you mentioned the Corona Capital Festival, it is true that the purpose of the festival is to push for entertainment and the enjoyment of the art. Still, one would be perhaps foolish to negate that music throughout the 10 years that the festival has been celebrated has changed. And that music had to be criticized, had to be innovative in order to continue being enjoyable by large masses of quantity. As you can see, revolution is an important part in the freedom process of creating art as well. Thus, we end our contributions to this exercise with a closing statement. Art should be a revolutionary activity. It should push society and societal reality to think of the conditions of the world. This should be its goal. Art should constitute itself as this force with commitment in order to transform the current conditions of the world, because that's the way it has always been. And that's the way it has managed to keep afloat and managed to continue expressing the limitless and boundless imagination of the human mind. In order to continue innovating, has to push towards something new, towards what's happening right now. And that does not mean that the artist lacks any freedom in the way he chooses to express himself or herself. Thanks.
Thank you.
It does 3:59.
Then shall we move on to the next team, please?
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, you tell me when to start.
You can start whenever you want.
Well, I'll start now. Finally, we can conclude that art has no limits and everyone can create it with freedom. Art is a way of understanding the world, not just the physical world, but the human world. There is a special sense and feeling of enjoying it rather than always looking for something. Enjoy it. Do not worry about anything else. We do not have to follow parameters or satisfy the objectives of art being educative, revolutionary, or obligated to create social awareness. It can be part of art. Nevertheless, it can be created with other purposes. As it was said before, we all think and experience everything in different ways. It is true that there are masterpieces that educate, be that as it may. Art has no barriers and we can create anything we want just for fun or just because it will be meaningful for us and not to everyone else. Art is created and analyzed through perspectives that we cannot manipulate. Art is a universal language that marks history. It has enriched our cultures, as I said before, and it is the only way where we can represent and appreciate the tangible and intangible things that surround us. Our essences are greatly impacted by the way that art around us is. Art is one of the most beautiful and meaningful ways of expression that brings life to our world and to our inner selves. According to Kant, it is our faculty of judgment that enables us to have experience of beauty and grasp those experiences as part of an ordered natural world with purpose. Art is a purposiveness without purpose. That's what we tried to say during the whole debate. We could clearly see this in the examples we provided as various concerts or festivals that take place. The objective of these is solely that of entertainment and of which it is not intended that there is some kind of background or meaning that does beyond making people spend and pleasant time enjoying good music together with loved ones. Also, we were able to appreciate how simplicity is art using Picasso with his work El Sueño, or also the contemporary artist Jeff Koons and his sculptures. Both have the purpose of giving the viewer a visual satisfaction through his works without searching for some kind of meaning in them, and that is why they too manage to be where they are, made art easy to digest and for everyone. Art is a freedom of expression and should not have limits. I think, well, we all think that there is beauty in simplicity. We do not have to struggle with art being educational or revolutionary. Art is that space where anyone can deal with its feelings, desires, fears, thoughts, perceptions, or just have fun, as I previously said. There is a quote that I love from Farida Shaid, a UN special rapporteur in the field of cultural rights, that I think exemplifies perfectly what we just mentioned during the whole debate. Artistic expression is not a luxury, it is a necessity, a defining element of our humanity and a fundamental human right, enabling everyone to develop and express their humanity with no limits. Even if we try to make art revolutionary, a revolutionary activity that should push society and social reality to think of the conditions of the world, it will not work because art is ruled by humans with different perspectives. We must learn to appreciate art. We must enjoy every part of it and let ourselves be.
Thank you.
It was to 3:59 too.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording. Okay, so